I thank you for staying with us on the program. Let's stretch the discussion this morning regarding the 2017 Workers' Day Beyond Rhetorics. I'm joined by another labor leader, someone who has been able to carve a niche in the fight to ensure that the welfare of workers across board is made a matter of priority. I'm joined by Money Modesty Mike Itwa. Those are 4 names. A whole lot. I had to take time to rehearse those names.
Oh, good morning. Yes, good morning.
Thank you for coming on the
program. Happy Workers' Day.
Incidentally, you're the secretary of the Joint Committee for the 2017 Labor Day, or Workers' Day, as we call it.
Yeah.
That's a whole lot of responsibility, but there must be something that spurs that level of commitment. You want to talk about that quickly?
Well, you know, I've been in the system for quite a long time, so to the extent that people have decided to call me labor devotee. So you know what it means to be a devotee.
Yes.
So I've been an insider. I have also passed through the rank to this present position. At the time, I was the state treasurer, Nigeria Labour Congress. At the time, I was also the acting state secretary, Nigeria Labour Congress. At the time, I was the secretary, NSC, TUC Joint Actions and Programs. And by God's grace, by today, I'm the acting state secretary, Nigeria Union of Teachers. And I've always participated in all labor activities, call it protest, call it strike, anything that's labor. Some will say that my placenta is right inside the labor community.
You just mentioned protest and all of those demonstrations. Yeah. Is that all there is to the movement, really?
No. When you hear of protest, that is the last bus stop for any labor union or central labor organization. A protest or strike is the last bus stop. It means you have extremely been pushed to the wall and you had no other alternative. And by a matter of inevitability, you decide to go that way. So we believe in the 3 C's. The 3 C's will tell you consultation, cooperation, and confrontation. Confrontation becomes the last straw.
Which is the issue of demonstration.
Yes.
Where you have to get to pickets,
strike, and all that.
Workplaces.
And before we get to confrontation, you know we would have exhausted all the avenues of cooperation, all the avenues of consultation.
Yes.
Then, as provided by the law, we head towards confrontation.
But is that the point at which some persons say, whether right or wrong, that protests or strike is the only language the Nigerian government understands?
African governments generally.
African
governments generally. Not until you take the cutlass and cut them hard. They don't tend to listen. When you tend to cooperate and you get yourself involved in consultation, they believe that. But except now that some of them are beginning to know that to allow workers to degenerate to the extent of going on strike is a big minus for them. But there are still those who still believe, whether you like it or not, they don't want to listen to you when you are cooperating or when you are consulting. They tell you they are alpha and omega. You know, government is supposed to be the servant of the people. But here, ironically, our governments are the masters of the people. So once they get to power, they tell you they are no longer the servants who were kneeling and asking you for their vote yesterday. Now they are your bosses. So they tend to be carried away by the ego of the office and wanting to lord it over everybody. So we now discover that before workers decide to embark on protest or they decide to embark on a strike, all the legal frameworks and procedures would have been exhausted. Contacts, consultations would have been made everywhere, and when government becomes obstinate, then the last instrument is we proceed on the strike action.
I think
sometimes it could be one strike, sometimes you can say, okay, let's protest before we eventually take the last option of strike, just as the situation demands.
Okay, we've seen a lot of strikes, of course, in this country. At the point it became as if strikes were supposed to be standard practice of sorts. But before we get to talk about all that in detail, I've been joined by an academic and someone who also is the chairman of ASU Uniben chapter, Professor Julius Iyasele.
Good morning, moderator.
Thank you for coming in the
program. Good day, viewers.
It's so good to have you join us this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'm just going to come to you quickly. I've been speaking with a labor leader here.
Yeah.
Incidentally, you have been in the struggle yourself.
Yeah.
We have seen agreements between ASU in particular and the government.
Yeah.
Those agreements, have they really paid off over time?
In fact, the federal government has reneged on all of them. And let me tell you the pains it took ASU. The negotiation started in 2006, for instance, the last one.
That's over a decade.
Yes, started in 2006, and by 2009, of course, federal government agreed to put pen to paper. That is, to agree to sign. After signing in 2009, we waited for implementation until 2012 when nothing was done. And that was what led to, of course, the struggle. I heard about strike, which became, the only alternative left. And before all of this, you go on warning strikes and all of that. Remember, it was in the course of that struggle that we lost one of our principals, Professor Festus Iyayi. But in spite of all of that, even few that they were still relics of implementation, let me put it that way, currently they've reneged on all of them. And they have called us back to the renegotiating table. So somehow you just look at a people who are self-centered, who are selfish, just believing in only themselves and all of that. In fact, one of the major reasons for appearing on this program today is to posit that everybody, every worker in this country should come on the salary scale, no matter whom you are. The president should be on the salary scale, the Senate must be on the salary scale, and every other worker, so that we know. Let it be that you're on level 100.
Even as a politician who has been elected in office.
Yes, to an office. So let us, we should have a standard in this country. We should have a way of, apportioning, not just anyhow. You can imagine, for instance, the university now where, yesterday you were a professor in a classroom, the next day you have become a vice chancellor, you have jumped on the salary of from 300,000 naira a month to about 1.8 million naira a month, because it's assumed that you are occupying a political office. You see the way politicians treat us and all that. So that's the situation.
You don't think that's a whole lot you're calling for? Do you see any chance of that happening? I mean, having to put everybody on the salary scale?
Oh, of course. If standards are anything to go by in the country, it should be. We're talking about regulation. We're talking about structure. That is what we're talking about. Otherwise, there's no system without an order that will survive. Otherwise, it's hierarchy everywhere.
You've talked about a whole lot. Let's come to you, Itwa. The issue of minimum wage has been on the table again. I mean, workers like yourself wanted to be shot up from 18 to 54, I guess, 56. How are we doing with that struggle?
Well, I think before we got ourselves so neck deep in recession, the agitation for review of minimum wage was already on ground. The last, I guess, was in 2011, and it was agreed that after 5 years, there should be review. Between that period and now, there has never been any review. And before we officially told we were already in recession, the agitation had started. The two trade centers had met and agreed to serve government notice about the need to commence negotiation on minimum wage of 56,000. Well, you know that the minimum wage issue is even taking the constitutional dimension right now, because some persons in the federation within the corridors of power are agitating that the issue of minimum wage should be on the concurrent list. And another dimension to it is that states should have the capacity and ability to fix their own wages. And organized labor has also posited right now that the issue of minimum wage world over is on the exclusive legislative list. Even in the United States of America is on the exclusive legislative list. So it is a question of the federal level fixing a minimum which both employers in private and public sector shouldn't go below. But because of the nature of politicians we have in this country, like my brother said, you discover that they want to always be on top, to fill their pockets with all forms of allowances here and there, whereas the worker becomes poorer. As we speak, there is no more middle class as far as this country is concerned. The recession has ever finally eroded the middle class.
Have we ever had middle class?
So to speak, during the time of Obasanjo, when he came, when my salary was 35, I was earning 3,500 naira. When Abdul Salami came, and when Obasanjo came, my salary got to well over 60,000, 70,000. And that was the era with which workers were busy buying cars. These loan facilities were made available everywhere. Workers were busy building houses. Children in school, they were being taken good care of. But after then, there has never been major surgical reawakening as far as the minimum wage issue is concerned. And that has all plummeted into the bottomless pit. The economy is biting hard on the middle class. In fact, as I speak, there's no middle class in this country. We have three types of classes. The uppermost class, no middle class, the poor, and the poorest of the poor.
And those are extremes.
Extremes. So the workers are within the rank of the poor. Then those who are below are poorest of the poor. There's no brilliant worker as far as this country is concerned. You can imagine the professor see any 300,000 naira. What is 300,000 naira? Is that money? How much is he expected to pay for a duplex in a year? For instance, he's on rent. And you expect him to perform all the magics? A civil servant is still on 18,000 minimum wage, grade level 1, step 1. 18,000 that cannot pay his transport fare to work in a whole month. Our consideration has always been psychologically, we have somewhere to stroll to, so that elements of depression and psychological detriment and all those stuff should come over us. There is nothing to write home about it. Even the 56,000 we are talking, it's not even tangible as far as the economy is concerned. Right now, when you talk about inflation, people will tell you more money pursuing few goods. As we have it now, we don't even have the goods. No goods, no money.
No money.
The productive sector is at a standstill. Money in the pocket, zero. If you take time to imagine the situation we are, you will discover over 80% of homes in this state, for instance, I'm using this state as an example, are not able to afford 2 square meals a day. Many people are now preferring a crayfish to make soup to even buying fish. Even the crayfish, women cannot even buy. Is the kerosene affordable? The gas, is it affordable? The situation is terrible. If there's any word worse than hell, I would have loved to use that word. Diseases are on the increase. Mental derailment and challenges are on the increase. People are jumping into the lagoons. Students are hanging themselves in their school, in their hall of residence. And yet we are talking of 18,000 minimum wage. We are a lucky nation that the people have not decided to take their destiny in their hands. What happened in Tunisia and many other countries of the world? They never had them to overtake what is happening in our nation. Even that said, recession can happen in any country of the world.
True.
But to which extent are we mobilizing our people and resources to get ourselves out of the recession?
Let me make you...
Just hold on.
Yes.
You're talking about the treasury single account. When they are not talking about 6.something trillion naira, you are keeping money when people are dying. People are jumping into the lagoon, you are keeping the money. You want us to clap for you that you have saved 10 trillion in an account and the productive sector is dead? People you see walking on the street now, if you are a driver in the town now, you are driving, you are not careful. You think somebody is just walking. That person is not there. The brain is somewhere else. Depressions are the increase. Most families can no longer feed their children. People are even getting scared not to even get their wives pregnant. The clinics are no longer working to be in favor of the poor people. Even government-owned clinics, they are not. Then somebody wakes up, you discover for the something $1 million is inside somebody's roof. One should have expected by now. The treasury single account, government should have opened it up now. Let these funds come out. If you are able to even convert that to pump it into the economy, you see there will be revival. Even the issue of dollar soaring here and there will not even be there. The central bank waited to the last hour before they started pumping out dollars, and you allow dollar to get up to 500 naira to a dollar, and you still will have a government?
You think that intervention by the CBN wasn't timely now?
No, it was a good decision taken at the wrong time. When it was 200, that's when they ought to have curtailed that thing. Okay, devalue your naira. Sanusi once says so. But if you don't devalue, naira will get to 500. Nobody listens to Sanusi. Until they eventually got to 500 before they started running from pillar to post. And I was told that the president was the one that told the economy.
Yes, he categorically told the CBN government that no further devaluation will be allowed.
But let us not remember the past. We are now saying you have close to 7 trillion in the treasury single account. Let this money come out. It's for Nigerians. It's not meant for CBN to keep. The road infrastructure is in disarray. The rail system is not working. The productive sector is dead. The people can no longer drink clean water. How much is a sachet of pure water? In some places, 20 naira. Even there is school fees, parents can't pay. There are even some schools now, government-owned schools, that operate private system. They have to drive children away because they know how the economy is biting on all workers. Then, you are talking about Boko Haram. There are many situations that have semblance of Boko Haramism. When I say semblance, it's not only where people carry gun. The level of kidnapping, has this subsided? More youths are coming out of school, they are not getting any job. Entrepreneurship is not being encouraged anywhere. Small and medium enterprises who need loan from a bank of industry, they are not having access to it. But you tell the whole world that money is available for everybody to take. And yet they have no access to it. So, the more you look, the less you see.
We're going to see more in this discussion. Let me come back to Professor quickly. You want to add something to that?
Yes, just to add to the TSA issue.
Yes.
Where is the money? Which money?
We heard there's a central account into which all the monies are set.
Of course, is that not where the universities draw from? How many federal universities in this country is paid full salary?
Have you been financially handicapped by
in January 343 staff of University of Benin were not paid their salary. And then in March also, they were not also paid. This same number of staff were not paid salaries. And across the country, or in all the federal universities in this country, they are not being paid their full salary. So how do you now say you have saved money? Is that how to save money? I mean, is there something wrong actually? Is it, in fact, there are so many where people, they are owing. You fix the road and let's find whether that money is there. So, of course, what they are doing here is another jamboree, another games, and all of that. People just want to put pride on themselves where there's none at all. So, the issue here is that the government, I think, they are deceiving the people. Just want, it's a boo-boo trap, just want to hike their ego that they are working, whereas they are not working. Nothing is working. How can you say you have TSA, you have money in TSA account? Meanwhile, those who are entitled to the money don't get it.
But is the idea behind TSA entirely wrong?
The idea about TSA?
Yes.
It's not supposed to be wrong. It's not supposed to be wrong. But the issue here is the implementation, which is the bane of Nigerian problems. Implementation, we make rules, we make regulations, we make laws. Beautiful man, Nigerians speak good English and all that. But at the point of implementation, we kaput, we fail. That is the honest truth.
Your views about issues that have to do with labor and overall workers in this country, I mean, I think relatively radical. What happens really when you say ASU in particular has come to the negotiation table with the federal government? Then at the point it is announced that they've come to an agreement. What exactly are you told at that point that makes you come to an agreement?
Of course, issues are articulated in black and white. Negotiations, discussions, negotiation by way of discussions, and then if agreement is anything a word to be used, we all know what the dictionary meaning of an agreement is eventually reached, and then somebody is on the side of government, or the persons who were nominated by government to represent her now comes to the table. Onosode is not late. He was the one who signed on behalf of government then. Can't government honor such a man, even posthumously, then agreed and signed? We agreed to all these terms that we have negotiated. Negotiations that took how many years? We now agree, and then they sign that we will now start implementing all of this. At the end of the day, these agreements are not, honored. You renege on what you have said. You swallow what you have agreed to do. It is, then, let me tell you, you see, all of this happening is, eventually accumulates to some issues. When you say, why should I talk good of a country where you have their principals will come and who bring a body as big as ASU, for instance. You've gone into an agreement, you refuse to implement the agreement. Then who will not believe you? It's a government of deceit. That is the meaning. And so that is what an agreement is supposed to mean. You have said, okay, you have responsibility. Let me tell you, you can imagine a deputy vice chancellor of a university not getting anything for being a deputy vice chancellor. Is it not shameful?
When you say anything, how do you mean? Doesn't he get
any additional stipend? Let me put it that way. As a deputy vice chancellor, nothing is added. Then you can imagine that.
He only gets his basic salary.
He gets only what he was getting before climbing into that office. Is that right at all? This is somebody who is taking a lot of issues at different times. You walk around the clock. That is what that responsibility demands.
There are insinuations that ASU is self-centered altogether. Is there any truth in that?
Self-centered in what sense?
That the interests they pursue basically are to serve themselves.
That is very, very unfortunate.
Do we put the interest of the students
that is very, very unfortunate.
on the front burner?
If not for ASU, by now, students would have been learning in university under trees.
Do we even have enough trees to shield them?
But unfortunately, yes. Because every single thing that the university had was fought for by ASU. At a point, the ASU engaged federal government in what we call needs assessment. I said, you come. I took NTA around or a television station around the hostels where students live. A room that was designed for only 2 students. To accommodate 2 students, now accommodate 16.
How do we deteriorate into that state?
Okay, that is because government refused, because continually this population increased. Nigerian population, I agree with me, is on the increase, isn't it? And so there are many students likely to come into the university. Then it's a government that is, if it's a government that plans, won't you prepare for an increase in population? Is that not what we are witnessing with electricity and all of that? In fact, now that we are worse than where we were in the 1960s, so that is the situation. Government has terribly refused, and it is a winner takes all. Because you now climb into power, it's okay. You pull down the ladder with which you have climbed, and all of that, and then can you imagine what people are doing in the National Assembly? Are those ones still thinking about what the university? So everything that the university has acquired was fought for by ASU. Is it salary? Have you one day, of course, like he has said, it is supposed to, government has said that every year or thereabout, there's an additional salary you are supposed to get. That is what honor demands for somebody who is working. But have you heard that one day, at the turn of a year, the salary had increased for any staff?
But if people don't also come to tell us when there is an increase, by the way, so that's not something we want to go into this morning.
But it is what, if you're asking, if you want to know, you come and look at our pay slip and all that. When even now they are reducing what we are supposed to be getting, they're talking about increase.
I think we're going to talk about workers from a different angle in a bit, but let me come back to Itwa. The issue of wrangling, internal wrangling, I should say, within the ranks of the labor has also been on the front burner. You want to react to that?
Internal wrangling is everywhere, even in the family sector.
You don't think this one is exceptional?
Even in the family sector.
Yes.
Internal wrangling exists in the church, in the traditional institution, in the political space, everywhere. In as much as you have more than one person in the system
together. That's it.
Even in you, internal wrangling do exist because your teeth and the tongue, they do have issues. So it's not a matter that is reserved.
But to what extent does it rub off negatively?
Generally, worldwide, internal wrangling is by nature. It's caused by nature. And you see, this issue of ego, pride, so to speak, who are you, can spoil a lot of things. Or people who are inundated with greed elements, people who have greed elements. So a lot of factors give room to internal wrangling. But you see, when people are not matured enough to be able to say, we can forecast where this will lead us to if we don't nip it in the bud. And secondly, when those elders who ought to have taken the challenge to say the work we have worked all these years, we won't sit and allow it go down. Or they decide to take side. Then you will see internal wrangling. Within the labor force, yes. Even within trade unions, yes. Within trade associations, yes. Even in community clubs and associations, it is always there. Why do you hear that people are overthrowing leadership with gun and all those ones? It's internal wrangling. When you are in the motor park, you are told another group has stopped with the other group. Internal wrangling. In a community, another person has a meant. Internal wrangling. So it's universal.
Has it really affected your workings?
Yes, it does.
Negatively, right?
Negatively. Negatively. because no credible establishment will sit and allow this house to be in tatters. But once you allow the house to be in tatters, whatever you get, you take it. Because paramountly, governments all over the world, so to speak, they prefer divide and rule system. If Angelina is not dancing well to my tune, I go to Angela. You know what I mean? It's just like, for instance, a man who decides to have a lot of wives. So, okay, the day this one doesn't cook the food very well, maybe with plenty of fish, native fish and others, the other woman should be able to do something. So, for us, there are crisis resolution mechanisms.
Have they been working?
These are the issues we are talking about. In some cases, those who are supposed to sit as elders to say, not in our time will this happen, they take sides. There are other persons, the elders may be willing, but the other group may feel they see themselves likely going to be more powerful than the existing group. And before you know it, you start seeing government hands. I want to use the expression, scatter hands. You start seeing government scatter hands coming from above. If you don't put on your binoculars, you will know that there are hands coming from above.
So would you say Labour gets manipulated at some point by government?
No. We can't run out of it. Sometimes it do happen. It depends on the players who are on stage. It depends on the players who are on stage. That is the truth. Any organization, any body, any professional organization, or as you may call it, can be susceptible to manipulations. It depends on who is providing leadership. Because even within the fold, the divide and rule system still operates within the fold. So, okay, this guy is not the one that we want to bend. I don't think I can do business with this guy. I think I should prefer to befriend this other guy who will not want to be obstinate. Divide and rule comes. Even in the family sector, there is also divide and rule. That is the truth. Divide and rule is a very potential instrument. It's a very powerful instrument used by people in leadership to achieve their aims either positively or negatively. But labor as a microcosm of the society, simply put, is not out of the system. But the more the merrier, that's how it ought to be. Don't forget, Nigeria was in 3 regions. But today, Nigeria has how many states? 36 plus the FCT. There's some people who sit and ask the question, has it really yielded us better dividends when we have 36 plus FCT compared to when we have 3 regions? Don't also forget, Nigeria was depending on cocoa, rubber, and so on and so forth. But the time came, Nigeria abandoned all that and depended on the oil from the soil, from the ground. But today, is the oil doing us more good than harm? So it depends on the actors on stage.
Incidentally, when we're having this conversation like this, especially on a May Day like this, it appears the issue of salary is the loudest song. Is that the cardinal objective?
A salary is really not the loudest. It's really not the loudest. There are a lot of issues that are usually articulated.
Okay.
May Day is a commemorative day because a lot of persons died in the course of labor-employer relationship, employee-employer relationship, in the United States, in Europe, and many other parts of the world, which eventually, historically led to the celebration of May Day. It is a day of reflecting on the works of our heroes past and making a comparative analysis of our present-day situation. It is a day of articulating before government, an employer of labor, when I say employer of both private and public sector, that these are areas we feel you have done well, these are areas we feel you have not done well, and we expect you to improve. But I can tell you, in most cases, people really don't know the reason for celebrating May Day. But for us who are within the system, we know it is a day of reflection. We articulate issues. Salary is, money is, they say money answered everything, in quote, as far as I'm concerned. Answered everything. Money, if you have no money in your pockets, my dear brother, you should know what that means. For instance, you close from the day's job, you want to go home, you have no money in your pocket. You have to travel from here to where you are going to. You know how you feel. But money seems to be the uppermost. That said and done, what is paramount to us during May Day celebration is it is a day of articulating the general issues of workers, their challenges, and where government is expected to improve on, as well as suggesting to government how they can provide better governance. It's a cooperative day. You cooperate with government, government cooperates with you, you know you will celebrate it, everybody is happy. Happy in quotes. So salary is an issue among the long array of issues.
Let me talk about
But why won't it even be salary?
maybe top.
Yes, because, excuse me, labor organizations are trade union organizations, and their welfare is in their disposition. Of course, the idea of why you get engaged in any employment is to improve yourself, isn't it? In any way, by ever salary, or even is it housing, or housing that is shelter, and yes, and health and all that was. So why would it be salary? That, first of all, but of course, while doing that, you also want to make sure that your working environment is also okay. And that is why the issues of a nation, the country, and all that comes in. We want the government to function normally so that we can get our appropriate wage and all that. So anybody that is accusing anybody that most time is salary we fight for might not be too fair and all that.
You are from the academia.
Yes.
I mean, you're seeing the university environment. You know it like the back of your hands.
Yes.
When we talk about things like this, it will appear the whole blame goes to government. Do you think the university or the community of universities is doing enough with regards to workers' welfare? Because we can't say 100% the government has got to do it all. What exactly are the universities themselves doing internally to also ensure that there's some measurable improvements in the welfare of workers?
Of course, the universities are not money-making organization. I hope we know that. That
will be hard to believe now.
But that is what we've been boxed into.
Yes.
To the extent now that you have premium university in this country selling meat. Can you imagine that? We are all manufacturers of different things.
Almost all the universities in this country now, public universities, that is, they have enterprises.
Yes,
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. They are making money.
You know what I'm saying? But it is diversionary.
Yes.
Because what we're paid to do is to teach, and then, of course, offer community service.
So as a teacher, you feel distracted by that?
It is distraction, whether you like it or not. That is the honest truth. What we are supposed to do is prefer the best way to handle all of that and hand it over to a commercial entrepreneur. I hope you understand. That is the way it's supposed to be, not getting involved in it itself. It is just because government has reneged and then have left the universities as, now an orphan. And so that is why people now, you need to bail yourself out. That's why we are getting engaged in all forms of businesses. It's a distraction, whether you like it or not.
We have intervention funds for universities. I mean, University of Benin being one of those beneficiary institutions.
Yes.
Have those interventions really made a difference
Of course,
better?
that's why we are seeing those buildings.
And the bosses.
Yes, the government is not government government does not send money apart from those intervention funds. That's where the needs assessment money comes from. Otherwise, nothing else. What federal government sent through TSA is the salary component, personnel cost. What then do you need? You need equipment, you need reagents and all of that in the labs. You need teaching aids in addition. So how are you going to get all of this? And so why you find ASU continually get engaged with government or wrestle with government is to forestall this idea of wanting to increase school fees, because we know at the end of the day this will backlash on ASU. I hope you understand, because the children of this country are coming from whose parents, or coming from where? They are still those parents that have been popularized in the places of their work. So what you can imagine, let me cite an example. Now they want the university, for instance, to fund the staff schools. And of course, whose children are in the staff schools? Are they not children of the workers, and they may be maybe parents in the immediate environment? At the end of the day, if government no more send anything, for the upkeep or management of the staff, what happens eventually? The same persons that have been crying on no salary will be the one that will be taxed. So these are the reasons why you find that the unions, you know, are always in the trenches. That's all.
Well, we also have seen or heard of insinuations in some quarters that the unions, in your words, have been politicking at some point too, with regards to this struggle. Any iota of truth in that? Taking sides, getting partisan.
Getting partisan. Of course, you know, every human being, like it is put in the local parlance, is a political animal. I hope you understand. Like what he has said, in trying to answer one of the questions, it's very, very true that governments are using this divide and rule. They've promoted these ethno-religious issues in this country. I hope you know. And then now that they have been able to make every citizen of this country poor, or the common person's poor, of course, people want to, you know what it is now for a drowning man. He holds on to a lifeline. So anything you now seize, you try to hold on to. That is why you find when politicians come into a forum and all that, you see the way they are respected because they know if you are sufficiently close or you have impressed them enough in that very way, you are likely to go home with some additional money. That is the truth. Because yes, they carry bags of money around. Some now you have noticed now their homes are warehouses or warehouse monies and all that. So that is the situation here. That is how they are able to make inroads into some persons that are union leaders.
Let me allow you to take a breath. Let me come to Itwa. The issue of complacency in the public service has been of concern to many Nigerians, forward-looking Nigerians. We can't have this conversation here, wrap it up, and not talk about that element. I mean, you have civil service where we seem to see so much of laid-back attitude. People get lackadaisical, they don't get committed, they don't bring tangible value to the table. Yeah, they are civil servants, they are on salary every month, they get all of the benefits that they are entitled to. Is there any way we are also addressing that issue, as important as it is, while we're talking about other pressing issues as well?
Uyi, let me quickly draw your attention to some fundamentals within the workplace. You are a civil servant. You have been to the university. Even some of them have up to master's degree.
Right.
There's somebody who is a counselor comes in and is earning close to 500,000. And you that have been on the job for donkey years, your salary is not up to 100,000. You are on the job for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. You are not promoted. You are on the job. The basic requirements for you to perform your official assignments are not provided. You are on the job. Nobody is sending you for training or retraining. Will you say that such a civil servant is motivated to work? That is for that. So here I will agree with you totally too, that the complacency that you're talking about is present in the service. I will be doing injustice if I do not agree with you on that. Now, there are people who come into the service through godfatherism, so on and so forth. They just bring you, there's a space here, take it. You didn't write any formal test. You were never interviewed. Then you think such a person will have value for the job that has been given to him or her. Well, there are those who are naturally lazy, who will tell you government job is to be carried on the shoulder, who will even scold those who are very hardworking. As our faces are different, so also our characters and behavioral patterns. There are elements that still remain very complacent in the discharge of their responsibilities. Let me also tell you, a lot of us are in the system. If there's an officer who is your head, and that is enabled by the rules that govern the office, to discipline you, for instance, for not coming early to work, and such officer does not show good example, will that officer have the capacity to challenge a subordinate for not coming to work early?
So that points to the issue of absence of leadership.
That is it. And a lot of factors are responsible for all this grammar that I'm speaking. Either for or against. So, like the private sector, you can't try that. You are supposed to be on your best by now. You must, by 8 o'clock, you must be there before 8. If not, you are fired. Because there is leadership. But in the service, in an office where there is no proper leadership, everything goes down. Above all, if the motivational pill that will make you to bring out all and all in all from your mind is not there, you better just scroll in there and scroll out. Because the commissioner comes, he takes away 1.5 million, and you are there, or even as a messenger, you are seeing it. You can't talk. 1 naira will not fall to you. There are those who sound as though they are evil sticks. They won't even look at you. Sometimes these people help them carry this bag.
These bags of money.
Bags into the cars. So a lot of things are bad in the system. But our societal values, negative societal values, have all been transferred into the workplace. So if you want the system to be reawakened, our religious organizations must be ready to preach morality and preach that which ought to be preached. They should preach that which God wants them to preach, not the one that pleases them, that makes the people to remain in the bad ways of doing things. Our traditional institutions should be awake to their responsibilities. The family unit must be awake to responsibility. Because a child who sees a father says one thing and he does another, definitely can't trust the father or even trust the mother either. And you get to the place of work, your boss is saying one thing to you, and you see him a few minutes later doing another thing. Then where is it? The system is terribly bad.
Yeah, let's
and we are all involved.
Let's talk about the fix for the system. I
just want to add to that. You see, most jobs, the jobs people do in the civil service are just option B job. They are not their prime job anymore. That is the honest truth. You are aware that the way people are hired into such offices, you know the politics that goes on. For instance, because I come from one area of the country, I come into an office to boss you that I know that is more qualified than myself. And from that first day, what will you do? Will you want to do any job there? That's why I'm calling it an option B job. It's just an alternative. That is why it is like that. There is no excellence. There's no righteousness in many things that we now do in government circles. So that is one.
Now going forward, Prof.
Yes.
Let's talk about negotiations and all of the interactions and interfacing you'll be doing with the government going forward.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to? I mean, we've had labor interface with government from one administration to another, and now, of course, issues are still on the table. So what particular issues will it be pushing?
Well, for instance, ASU is now currently on the negotiating table with government, and we thank God Babalakin that has been there in the past is now heading or leading the team representing government. We just hope this time they will be honest to themselves.
Otherwise, you resort to strike again.
The story
then
remains,
go home.
The story remains the same. That is just it. Until maybe we come out of the tunnel.
So can't we change the narrative for the better for once?
Of course, but that depends on who now?
On government.
It's not on government. It's just a matter of agreeing, to relying on your responsibility. Take the bull by the horn for once, and now consider that these other persons I'm talking with are human beings. But most times, that's why, initially I mentioned selfishness here. It's just a matter of, for once, think that you could be in this position next time. That is all.
But beyond strike, I'm thinking for a moment, beyond strike, is it possible for ASU in particular to take advantage of the judicial system, for instance, to want to compel governments into some action?
Of course, they did in the past. Those are the first issues that are considered before even the strike. Strike is the last option, but it never works. Let me tell you, in other climes, there are places where people say, I will go on hunger strike because you have refused.
So if you do that here, what happens?
You will die. Nobody cares. Who will listen? You go on hunger strike, you want to force government by going on hunger strike. People are looking for that food. So that is the issue. So what other tool or weapon is available?
Apparently, hunger strike is not an option.
It's not an option, yeah. No other option apart from this violent one. That is the way the country has gone. We have been militarized. So the only option is by force. It's strike. That is what they understand. Even when you go on a warning strike, now, don't even listen until you totally withdraw your service. That's only when some persons will now come running around because of their ego image, not because of even the system. I hope you know, it's because of their own image that I'm a sitting governor and these people are striking against me. So just because of that, not that this will have adverse effect the growth of this country. It's not.
All right, let me come to Itwa. In the midst of all this, let's quickly talk about the element of patriotism.
Well, if you want us to use the word patriotism, I think it will be applicable, should be applicable to all. It must be applicable to
both
everybody.
Sides.
Both the employee, the employer, the politicians, everybody. Patriotism is not to be a matter reserved for only one section. It should be for everybody. But some persons must start the art of patriotism and impress on others to be able to copy. But patriotism may not be there when the people are hungry. You can't find patriotism anywhere when there is hunger in the land. Most parents can no longer sleep throughout the whole night. Their eyes are opened because of one problem or the other. They are not able to feed their children. You want them to be patriotic for what? That's patriotism that leads to the grave. We have to be realistic. Government must start it. They say change begin with me. We change. We are not even sure now if they change will start. Not possible.
So obviously you don't believe in that mantra, do you?
Oh my God, all those ones are just ordinary talk.
Yes, look at it, sir. I think Ikwa is looking at it from a particular angle. But let me look at it frontally. That you are patriotic when you want the system to go well. You go on strike because you want the system to run well. And so we are the ones that are patriotic.
Not the government.
No, if you leave things to degenerate continuously, you are when you are on strike, they will tell you you are patriotic. That is very wrong of them. They don't. It's because they lack understanding. We want things to go the way they are supposed to be, and so that everybody will benefit. The poorest of the poor will benefit in this country.
As we need to wrap up on this discussion, let me come back to you again, Itwa. You're living here for the stadium. You're already dressed appropriately for today.
Yeah.
Beyond all of the speeches I'll be giving today, maybe by the governor or whoever is going to represent him, and of course by the organized labor, what exactly are we doing today that will bring about a turnaround for the better for the days, weeks, and months ahead?
Well, if you are privileged to be in the stadium,
I won't be there. I'll be
or you are privileged to have access to the addresses that will be presented by organized labor, both NSA and TUC today, you will discover that the addresses are loaded and holistic. Holistic to the effect that it's going to touch on governance, it's going to touch on labor activities and employees' responsibilities, it's going to touch on issues of society, it's going to touch on issues of economy, and many other issues. So, labor, generally, the people in labor are not selfish when it comes to carrying the interest of the majority of the people along. It's not just going to be a stereotype type of speech that you'll be hearing today. It's all encompassing. So when you're talking about salary, yes, it should be one of those issues. When you're talking of fixing the roads, it should be one of those issues. Betterment for everybody, they are all there. So labor doesn't carry only issues that have to do with just the workers or its members. The issues they canvass are universal in nature, and particularly relative to Nigeria economy, Nigeria as a nation, the political sector, and many other things. So I guess maybe later in the day, you will be able to get the facts.
I look forward to that, really. Just your last word, Prof, before we go on the program.
That government should be sincere in this country and should not see labor unions as enemies. They are partners in progress. That's all.
And we hope they get that message. I've been talking with two gentlemen here, labor leaders in their own right, and they've been shedding light on not just the labor issues, but Labor Day and its significance, International Workers' Day as we call it. And they've given us an insight as to what we should look forward to today. I've been talking with Professor Julius Iyasele. He's an academic and is the chairman of ASU Unibank chapter. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
And also I spoke with Morning Mike Modesty Itwa, who happens to be the secretary of the 2017 International Workers' Day for the Joint Committee of Labor.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the program as well.
God bless.
Of course, he already told you that he'll be leaving here for the stadium, and we're looking forward to seeing what the conversation will be wired around today, even though he has already given us a very brilliant insight into all of that. And we won't fail to bring you details on our main news later tonight at 7:30. My second discussion this morning will focus on Nigeria's security challenges. I'll be joined by hopefully two gentlemen to discuss all of the elements in that conversation. Stay with me.